place that's not a home. Going through the motions, killing time, waiting for a reason or a sign. Before I fall, I need to know, are you still holding on? Have you lost hope? 'Cause it's not fair to keep me close with broken promises. I need you to let me go.
Tinsley sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barr FTF Cup Series.
Over the lead. Bond gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Flash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up, as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh, the canvas saves him. Get your butt down.
He's got it! He's got it!
Canvas is in.
Blow on the dice and wear your lucky socks. It's time to take a gamble. Our drivers will face off at the Rapid Las Vegas Motor Speedway tonight as we get ready to watch the Provisional Gamble 400K, Round 3 of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. And we'll see it all live here on FTF.gg. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Caleb Hoffman. Behind the scenes is our producer, Zach Johnson. Caleb, this should be an interesting one, especially with the speeds that they tend to reach at this place.
Yeah, you're going to see an interesting mix of racing here where it almost feels like a super speedway style draft race, but also tires and fuel are going to be so important here at Las Vegas. So super excited. We've had 2 great rounds so far, and I'm sure the third is not going to disappoint either.
No doubt. As you can see, they are gridding up already, so drivers are all good to go, and we are going to take part here in round 3 here as they start to take off. Sean Butler is on the pole for this one with Dylan Basin in second, Parker White P3, and then Brandon Cattell will be in. Daniel Falkingham to his outside, Brian Mercurio 9th, and Kevin King rounding out your top 10.
And looking on back to row number 6, you're going to find Kyler Wynn in the number 82 with Daniel Buttafuoco to his outside. Lawson Peel in row number 7. One and 2, and it gave him a big run. And here comes that high side again with Brandon Cattell looking to take second away now from Sean Butler as they come off turn 4 for the first time today.
Good to see a good clean start here at the first lap. How long can they carry this on? Of course, we will have stage racing in this one. Expect the first one to be at 40 laps into this event. Basin continues to lead Cattell in the number 80, pulls up behind him, taking the second place, and Butler falls down to third. In fact, it looks like we're going to have a swap around both for P1 and P3 as the 80 moves up to the top spot.
Yeah, it was a great move from Cattell right there. You're going to see Dylan Basin slot right back into line. Parker White has his nose out just a little bit, but going to fall back in line. And you're going to see these guys right before they make their passes. They're going to just edge that nose out just a little bit and, you know, give themselves that opportunity to duck back into line if they choose to do that.
And here goes another run for Falkingham down there in the 0.54. Looks like he might be able to do something on Basin, who doesn't fight it that hard. No, he's going to come back around the outside. The progressive banking here certainly helps that situation, Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. And that high line where you can keep your momentum up is just so important. And you're probably going to wear your tires out a little faster. So it's a short-term gain, long-term loss type situation. But you see right here, really working for Dylan Basin is he is clear of Brandon Cattell and that number 80 machine for the lead.
So he's going to sacrifice just a little bit of tire for that track position. And he ducks it back down low once again. We go pretty much single file for the top 10 or so. You have to go all the way back to Daniel Buttafuoco fighting with Kyler Wynn around the 9th and or the 10th and 11th positions there. Otherwise, it seems to be calming down somewhat here on lap 5 towards the sharp end of the field.
Yeah, but I mean, you look back here, we are still 3 wide trying to get everything sorted out. Briar LaPrade had finished P3 in this race a year ago. He's had a rough start falling back outside of the top 20, and he's stuck in the middle 3 wide with Nick Miller to his inside. That's Kwame Scott, on his outside. They're going to get it sorted out, and I think we're going to see the rest of the field kind of follow suit into this single file formation, but back here it is still super dicey.
We've only completed 2 races, but there seems to be a bit of a curse forming where the winner isn't able to take part in the following race. So whoever wins this one, we'll see if they wind up following suit next time out. Still a lot of dicing here in the mid-pack as drivers try to get themselves some clear air.
Yeah, Kevin King to the inside of Wyatt Tinsley there in a big move, made it 3 wide, almost out to the apron, and it looks like he might try it again here on Kyler Wynn. Yeah, as you alluded to with the drivers missing, we had 94 people show up and attempt to qualify for this race, which, again, is so impressive here for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. And Michael Guest, our winner last week at Auto Club, finished P2 in this race a year ago. So, I mean, that just shows you the parity in who can qualify and qualifying speeds. There were a bunch of big names that missed out on this race here tonight, and it's really going to hurt them in their quest for a championship.
Yeah, 90 down to 44 is not good odds for a lot of drivers out there. Literally half of them having to go home as we continue to try and figure out who is going to get into this top 10. Look at the 20 up around the outside there. That is Wyatt Tinsley, who makes a nice run into the 6th position. Ahead of him, looking down to the bottom side, David Brown also giving a go at things. He's going to try and take away P4 off of Butler.
Got really close right there with David Brown. You see on board with Wyatt Tinsley now to the inside of Sean Butler. Kevin King with a run. Doesn't make it 3 wide this time. Opts to just stick behind that 32 machine. And you're going to see a bunch of aggressive moves. Again, this is almost reminiscent of a super speedway style package at points where you are going to get huge runs and you just have to figure out what you're going to do with it. And in Kevin King's case, made it 3 wide a few laps ago. He might do it here again on the outside of Wyatt Tinsley. Sean Butler. And a little bit of contact up front between David Brown and Daniel Falkingham. Sean Butler as well going to get in the back of him, but they keep it sorted out, but it is getting dicey.
Brown was getting a little loose there on the bottom side, making that contact, but looks like he's got it gathered up now. Yeah, I kind of wonder, similar to a super speedway race, Caleb, if maybe it makes sense to try and stay out of some of this craziness. Find yourself just a little bit of racetrack to yourself and just stay out of trouble and tick the laps off.
And again, another big discrepancy here with the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series is you don't have any fast repairs here, whereas other leagues, you might get 1, maybe even 2. But here, if you wreck your car, you're going to be done for the night, and that's just how it's going to be. So you really have to be smart and be careful about where you put your car, because if you put it in a precarious spot, it can come back to bite you big.
Look at that. We went from single file through the top 10 to now basically 2 wide as far back as you can see, and make that 3 wide for the lead.
Wow,
4
4
wide. Down to the bottom for the 88 of Kevin
man.
King. Can they hold this out? They're all giving each other space, but this can't hold on forever. They're going to go completely through 3 and 4, all 4 abreast from one another, but up at the top to cross the line this time. It looks like Dylan Basin will barely hold on to the lead. They go back down to 3 wide once again. This is pretty frantic for lap 12 of a 167 lap race.
Yeah, 4 wide there. Got transported into the world of outlaws real fast, but all of a sudden, again, we find ourselves single file as quickly as we found ourselves 4 wide there. going to get it sorted out. Dylan Basin, Cattell, Edward Shear, he has had a great run working his way up through the field. On board now with Dylan Basin, and he made a power move to be able to outlast 3 other guys and take the top spot here.
So he did it that time. How many times can he luck out with those sort of situations? Will he be hunted down by so many drivers all night long, or will we eventually see them try to once again just put some laps in on this race? We still got some side-by-side, a little bit behind the leaders there. That is Brown on the high side and Falkingham down low. They're vying for the 5th position, and Brown's got a pretty good run. He might actually try and do something on King in front of him in the 88.
I mean, yeah, even further in the back, too. You see Malik Ray, he started this race outside of the top 20, and he's already crawled his way up inside the top 10 on the back bumper of Sean Butler now. So this is one guy to watch out for. He's had speed at Daytona, obviously. Last week didn't really have the greatest of luck at Auto Club, and finds himself now inside the top 10 looking to rebound. And, Corey Carpenter got super loose on the inside. That's going to open the door now for the 32 and the 007 behind him as well.
And that's the 09 of Scherer, who managed to take the top spot away from Basin that time, the long way around. Once again, you talked about the momentum on that high side. It does seem to be pretty effective, and a lot of drivers are willing to shoot that gap. But at what point, with all the green flag racing we've had, will the tires
Corey
start
Carpenter!
to go?
They're stacking up in the back, and Kwame Scott as well. They somehow keep it going straight. But Corey Carpenter got turned in front of the field. Nick Olson involved as well. My goodness, we knew that was going to happen sooner or later.
Great job by everybody to stay heads up in that situation. Nick Olson in the 024 that you mentioned was all the way to the apron to try and avoid an accident there, and that cost him. He's down to 36 because of that. So he's got to try and retake a lot of cars here at this stage. In the meantime, Basin's already gone from the lead down to 5th spot. What happened to him?
Yeah, just in all that. I mean, and on the flip side, Sean Butler, who almost found himself outside of the top 10, is now inside the top 5, passing your former race leader, Dylan Basin. And finds himself Kevin King as well on the outside. David Brown now trying to take the point from Brandon Cattell.
If you don't like the positions, wait a lap, because they're going to change the way things are going so far. Up around the high side, now it's David Brown's turn to try and overtake Cattell for the lead. And it looks like he should have it as he shoots off of turn 4. Already 18 laps into this event. Haven't had a caution yet, but it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, and Corey Carpenter inside the top 10 getting spun like that. I mean, that's about as close as to a yellow as you'll get without actually getting one. And more contact on the backstretch. Looks like Nick Miller just made some considerable contact with the outside wall. Kyler Wynn dodged to get away from him as well. But Parker White now finds himself up inside the top 15 because of that.
Yeah, so that's going to move Miller down into P14, it looks like, as they fly back into turn 1 once again, side by side between Scherer and Butler. But Butler comes out on top and takes that 4th position up in front of them. Kevin King, that was a big lift there from Cattell. The 80 car definitely gave that one away.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, a long race here. We're only halfway to the end of stage 1, and you got to think maybe at this point, try to save your stuff just a little bit to try to come back at the end of the stage, because those stage points are going to be so crucial, so valuable to everybody contending here for a championship.
The one driver that's probably asking, what do I got to do to get a caution, is Ryan Naraki. He started from pit lane and has not gone a lap down yet, but having lost the draft of all those in front of him, he's been running a very lonesome last place all race long and could really use that yellow to catch up to the back of the field.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing that's so much fun about the FTF Cup Series here is, you know, some of the rule independencies, I guess, that they take from the real life Cup Series, where one of them is, you know, at the end of lap 40 here, we're going to award stage points, but there's not going to be a caution for it. And, you know, having that extra element of strategy involved in the race, it's just so much fun to watch it all play out. So for guys like Ryan Naraki, you're really hoping that incidents like the one we saw with Corey Carpenter have to happen a little more often just to kind of give you a break at this point. But up front, looks like we have a new leader once again, Kevin King. These guys are going back and forth like crazy.
Yeah, it seems like they really want that clear air on their car. Nobody's willing to sit behind in second place for too long that we've seen. Everybody tries to work their way to the front. I'll be honest, I kind of want to see that style of stage rules in real-world NASCAR where there's no caution, just you brake and you carry on. Kind of reminds me of IMSA racing in a way in some of their endurance rounds. Is Kevin King actually doing a good job pulling away here from Brown now that he's got that spot, but we'll see how long it lasts.
I can tell here for P2 now on David Brown. David Brown actually looks like his car favors that middle high line just a little more because he got on the inside and that car immediately just got wobbly on him. And Sean Butler now trying to do on Brendan Cattell what Cattell just did to David L. Brown. And just all over the place right now. I guess you could say they're shuffling the deck.
Especially here at Vegas, is once again all the way up to lap 24. Still no cautions that we've seen yet, with some pretty intense racing at the front of the field. Honestly, all throughout the field. I can't even just say it's up at the point. Ooh, that was a big moment for Brown there on the bottom. You saw him have to gather the car up. Are we starting to see the tires feel the effects?
Yeah, I mean, looking right now, we've had a consensus about a half a second fall off through the field, so we are starting to see those tires come into effect here 25 laps into this run. Really interested to see when we start seeing guys peel off into the pit lane, because you got to think with this stage break coming, you might have somebody early pit and try to capitalize on that break at the expense of on the long run here if we get it.
And Caleb, while the air temperatures aren't exactly what you'd expect for Nevada, I can look at the track temperature, and that's definitely what I'd expect for the middle of the desert. 121 Fahrenheit. No wonder the tires are going a bit.
And again, we had alluded to this last week at Auto Club. If you remember how cold and rainy it was in real life, we mirrored that here, where it was, I believe, 65 degrees, something like that, air temp, which is about as cold as it gets. So again, trying to mirror that just a little bit with the track just soaking in the desert sun here. It will get hot and it will just eat at these tires over the course of a run, which 26 laps in. We've tried to have a few cautions, but haven't yet. And these guys, their tires are starting to pay for it.
So far, the field still only separated by 7 seconds, other than Naraki, who is getting close to being lapped soon. The way things are going, if it stays green for much longer, maybe about 10 more laps, and we'll see him caught up by this top group, who still are running side by side for a good chunk of the top 10 and top 20. You can see there, that is the 011 of Parker White on the bottom, with Dylan Basin, former leader, still down in 7th spot. Hasn't really made much inroads in trying to return to that top position.
Yeah, again, Dylan Basin was one of these guys that was really using that high lane to make passes. And do you think maybe we're starting to see the payoff for that, where, yeah, he was faster on that high side, but here on this long run that maybe he wasn't expecting to get, he's really starting to pay for it, just slipping on back to this field. You see him all over the back of that 054 of Daniel Falkingham, and Parker White just can't hang with him here on the inside lane.
Certainly seems to be the case, and he's still up on the high side. He isn't able to get down low for now because of White and Falkingham being down there. Let's see if he does it if he falls in behind the 011. Ooh, 3 wide in front of them, my goodness.
Yeah, that was a big move there. You see Malik Ray as well trying to follow Wyatt Tinsley's path. Not quite going to be the real estate there. He's going to try to get on Sean Butler. They make contact. Cattell gets out of it.
Very lucky that that 007 car managed to move down as low as he did. Malik Ray gave enough space to the 32. That could have hooked him so easily and caused our first yellow of the night. But we stay green. And down to the bottom, let's not forget about Parker White there in that 011, facing off against Falkingham. Good run for the 054 for now, but he's got no place to take it.
And in this top 5, Sean Butler, Daniel Falkingham kind of feel like outliers right now. You saw Malik Ray in that aggressive move that he made trying to break into the top 5. He's still going to hold that, but Malik, Wyatt Tinsley, Kevin King, all Coke Series drivers. And last year here at Las Vegas, we saw another Coke Series driver in Dylan Alt dominate that race, get involved in some accidents in the middle parts of that race, and then come back and to win it. And looks like we're on the same path here with Kevin King starting to build a gap up back to Wyatt Tinsley, almost half a second. And these two Coke drivers again are just running their own pace here at the front of the field.
Yeah, this is the first real true breakaway I think we've seen all day. And Kevin King trying to make as much advantage of it as he can. Tinsley trying to follow him. You can see here, this is basically now a battle for third in this top group, being led by Sean Butler with Parker White behind him. Falkingham still going side by side from time to time with that 0-1-1 and another bit of contact.
Yeah, washed up in front of Daniel Falkingham, and a great job from Falkingham to keep the front end of his car out of the back bumper of Parker White there. And again, that's going to come at the cost of track position here for Daniel Falkingham, as not only is Parker White going to clear him, but now Malik Ray's going to have an opportunity. Dylan Basin now to his inside as well. But losing 3 spots, I'd say is a lot better than junking the race car here on lap 33.
To finish first you must finish. So the drivers do have to try and preserve this thing. Like you mentioned earlier, no spare car out there. So you can't afford to have any damage, especially at a track as fast as this one. I mean, their minimum speed through the corners is still about 150.
Yeah, aero is just so important here, especially with some of the aerodynamic changes that they made on this next-gen car over the off-season. I mean, again, the way that the Wake operates is just a completely different system than just a year ago. And you can see these guys trying to take advantage of it. Looking back up at the front, Malik Ray tried to get on the outside of Sean Butler, and he will have a run here on the outside. This is for P number 4. And Malik Ray, again, trying to use his high side to his advantage as we're closing in to the end of stage number 1.
This guy's got to be a little bit careful here. The more they battle side by side, it seems like Parker White's just kind of stretching away. Could go from 2 cars to 3 cars breaking off from the main pack. And they don't want to lose touch of too many of them, even though it is still early in the race. With how much green flag running we've had, I'd say you want to try and hold on as much as you can so that in case we do see it go from lights to flag, you're not caught out by the end.
Oh, man. And you talked about pulling away. The inverse has happened here. Wyatt Tinsley has reeled Kevin King back in, and they almost made contact there in turns number 3 and 4. They're side by side, coming to 5 to go left in this stage.
That's Wyatt Tinsley on the bottom in the 20, Kevin King on the top in the 88. The top has been the desired line, but not this time. Wyatt easily passed him down through 1 and 2. He's your new leader. I thought King had real control of this race, and maybe this really is a matter of just saving your stuff. Oh, behind them, up into the wall. Did the 0-1-1 just brush the outside of 3?
Yeah, Parker White, and he just entered a little too high, and the car stepped out from underneath him. I think he lost the nose just a little bit, and it caused that car to make slight contact with the outside wall. But even after brushing it, he has enough of a buffer back to Malik Ray, where I think he'll be okay if he just nurses it. But back up at the front, Wyatt Tinsley out of turn number 2 actually just brushed the wall as well. Kevin King now looking to pounce once again for that lead that he just lost.
Gets right back up on the rear bumper of the number 20 as they exit out of 4. Yeah, with the mistakes that we're now seeing, with the drivers getting loose here and there, I'm starting to think that maybe the tires are giving up the ghost. I would have to think a track this fast has got to be tire limited instead of fuel limited, Caleb.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point in the run, looking right now, we are seeing about a second fall off in lap time around the field. So, you got to think at some point here, as soon as this stage ends, that we're going to see guys start to come in, because the tire advantage is going to be so huge. I think if you pit early, you'll be able to make up time and kind of just hope for a caution. I think that's going to be the play here, is to pit as early as you can, just to try to make up as much ground in the short run as possible.
Absolutely. Speaking of making up ground, we've had a few really big movers. 20 positions up for Michael Frisch back in 16th, but Malik Ray's gone up 17 positions into 4th, which I'd say is a little bit more of an impressive feat considering the talent level we've got out here to be able to get all the way up. There was a big one as trying to keep the car from wiggling its way down into the grass, try to make out who that was in the black car, having to chase it.
And I mean, you referred to the talent level here on the last lap of stage number 1, and Wyatt Tinsley, Kevin King, the defending series champion here, Parker White, Malik Ray, Dylan Basin. This top 5, I think, really speaks to the talent level that is in this series. But coming out of turn 4, it looks like it's Wyatt Tinsley's to lose.
That was Falkingham who had that moment come out of 4 last time, but they complete lap 40. That's going to be the stage as they cross the line. But I did hear at least one driver say he was pitting in. David Brown was adamant about that, so not sure if he had some sort of damage or he just doesn't think it's worth the stage points. He is going to risk it by coming in early.
And I mean, again, I don't dislike this move from David L. Brown. You hear the comms start to get a little busy right now. You see David L. Brown definitely going to be 4 tires and fuel there for the 83. I think he can make up this ground and, again, kind of hope for a caution. If you don't have that track position on your side, then what is there to lose? And you see everybody starting to follow suit now. Coming out of the pit lane, I see Scotty Smith, Lawson Peel, Nick Miller, Connor Horn is on the pit lane as well. That's Lawson Peel that you see right there. So, I mean, these leaders, I think, got to follow suit here soon.
The one I'm surprised that we haven't seen come in is Ryan Naraki, because he's got nothing to lose here. All he can do is make up time if he pits early, and it looks like he's not going to go for that. He's just trying to stay out, I suppose, maybe ride it as long as he can, but he's getting very, very close to being lapped now. If we get a little bit of a wider shot, this 37 can probably see in his mirrors Wyatt Tinsley's machine getting bigger and bigger.
That's got to be an intimidating feeling. Ryan Naraki did not have a great start to this race. And the fact it's taken him this long, I mean, I think shows that he does have a fast race car here. He's just got to play some aero games with Wyatt Tinsley, the leader here. If he wants to stay on the lead lap, you know, the courteous thing to do maybe would be to just pull it aside and let Wyatt Tinsley go. But I don't think it's going to be in RNC's interest here. He wants to stay on this lead lap, and he wants to stay in contention here.
Well, we've had our bulk of drivers right after the stint come down to pit lane and take their strategy. But we only had, I think, 1 or 2. Yeah, I'm seeing 2 drivers came in last lap. So,
here comes Tinsley.
Oh, that was a late call, and the drivers are really pushing that pit entry here, but it looks like most are able to get in. No accidents yet on their way down to the pit speed limit. And so our leaders have elected to mostly come in, but King and Parker White will stay out up at the front.
Parker White just screamed over the radio that he is coming in this time out of that lead position. Kevin King as well. We'll see if he follows suit as well. And it looks like he shall. Brian Mercurio, I think, is going to be coming down as well. Jimmy Mullis, Kyler Wynn. This is going to be basically everybody. Again, like you said, pushing it here. Blake Reynolds. Going to see guys start to lock up the brakes a little bit, but I think we're clean.
Yep, that should be everybody in now. Nobody else has stayed out. Nope, I'm going to eat my words. DeAngelis is out there. Stewart, Payne, only 3 drivers who still need a pit stop. They are banking on a yellow here, but we've had none forthcoming. We now have drivers with all sorts of mixed strategy, though, so chances could increase.
Close there. Frank DeAngelis is pitting. Connor Horn has to check up huge. He had a big run. Chris Overland got bopped with a speeding penalty. I believe he had some contact getting into the pit lane, and that pushed him over our threshold here. But everybody else has to just make a safe exit here. And we almost saw an unsafe one with Connor Horn. He was flying down the backstretch when Wyatt Tinsley merged up in front of him. This is going to be big right here. Kevin King coming off the pit lane. Wyatt Tinsley.
Start to pick up speed. Parker White should be the effective leader here. Waiting on DeAngelis, Payne, and Stewart to get back out, but they should be well behind this group. So as they cross, we'll finally have a more official look at things. And yes, Parker White is now your leader. Tinsley second, Kevin King third. Dylan Basin makes his way back up into 4th.
Yeah, Parker White did a great job that last time. Wyatt Tinsley again tags the outside wall coming off of turn number 2. Kevin King, Dylan Basin, and again, Parker White just had a great series there. He was able to make up all that time and stayed out just one extra lap from Wyatt Tinsley, Dylan Basin, Malik Ray, all these guys. Connor Horn up in the top 6 right now. That's going to be the oldest guy on tires here. He's 6 laps into the stint. It's going to be about a 3-lap difference, which we'll see. That can play big dividends here.
Yeah, from what I can see, I think we had at least 3 drivers that managed to get a speeding penalty of some sort. Doucette, Scotty Smith, and Chris Overland, all with long stops that last time. That sent them a lap down and behind Naraki, which will mean that that Ryan Naraki will be our lucky dog if we do get that elusive caution. But we're just about 50 laps into this, and we still haven't seen a single hint of yellow.
And I mean, we've seen these guys be racy, and as you say that, Logan Helton washes up big time in front of Sean Butler and Jimmy Mullis. A big call, or a close call, excuse me, for this 63, right in front of Ryan Naraki, that lap down car who would love to see a caution, and he almost had his hopes up. Logan Helton, a big moment there. He finds himself now going to be P14.
Unfortunately, no dice yet. He'll have to keep rolling. As they come around back into one once again, Mullis trying to get away from Helton and see if he can get himself some distance. He sees some battling cars just in front of him. Sean Butler, Lawson Peele, Nick Miller, Brian Mercurio, David Brown, all jockeying for what is 8th position up there.
And starting to see that point in, you remember back to the first run where we saw everybody get single file out and just kind of log laps for a little bit. I wonder if we're at that point and we'll start to see them get racy again, or if they'll just settle in single file and ride this one out.
Top 6 or 7 seem to be doing that. From behind them, not seeing that nearly as much. There you see, that is the first place on down to about 6th or 7th spot there that have gone single file, down to about Daniel Buttafuoco, before they start battling between Mercurio and Miller for that 8th position. Ticking off now lap 52 for all of these drivers. And yeah, I think you're right, because other than that little bit of side-by-side battling behind them even, does look like it's kind of calming down.
A little bit of impatience from Sean Butler. He's all over the back bumper of Brian Mercurio. Daniel Buttafuoco, a big move on Connor Horn. Again, the car with the oldest tires here is that number 67 machine. And on the outside, he just cannot hang with Malik Ray. Nick Miller behind him, trying to offer him some support, but just not going to be enough, as now Malik Ray looks like he's going to try. But once again, I think on entry really is where this outside lane is starting to advance. Oh, and Kevin King gets blocked up as well. Wyatt Tinsley all over the back bumper of him now, trying to get around him.
Finds just enough space on that high side. King's going to have to give way to the 20, who now snatches 2nd place. And yeah, you talked about the similarities the last time. This looks a lot like it. It calmed down for a brief moment, and then it's all excitement all over again as they go mostly too wide down through the pack. But I feel like if I was in the midst of that, I would have tried to take the lesson of saving the tires. We saw some guys up front early who just dropped like a rock later on, Caleb.
And last run, that was Dylan Basin. And I'm wondering here if we see some of these guys that are a little more aggressive on the outside, looking at guys like Daniel Buttafuoco, Sean Butler's been up here, Brian Mercurio, even up at the front. Wyatt Tinsley's not been hesitant to use that outside lane. So I'm wondering maybe if we see them start to subside a little earlier than everybody else that's just comfortably kind of riding in this bottom lane at the moment.
It could be. This is honestly, I think, a little bit of a question mark for a lot of drivers, kind of waiting to see how this all is going to unfold. Haven't seen any lessening of the temperatures out on track, that's for sure. It's still at about 122 right now, and we're smack dab in the middle of the day at 1 p.m. virtual standard time. So the drivers are just going to have to deal with these incredible temps with that sun baking the pavement. And again, to me, that would say save your tires, save your stuff, but I'm also not out there on the track, so they know better.
Nick Miller, another one of these guys that is not scared to use that outside lane. He's trying to get around Connor Horn and gonna, clear himself and shut the door on Connor Horn there. That was big there. I saw a similar move out of Daniel Buttafuoco on Malik Ray earlier, but Nick Miller is just blocking up Connor Horn, who did have a run. That's going to open the door for Sean Butler, Dylan Basin behind them. And I don't know what happened with Nick Miller, but he just does not have straightaway speed all of a sudden.
Seems like the momentum went away, unfortunately, up and around the outside of Butler. Gets the move, and then is going to pull on the 88 of King, but decides not to try anything down into 3. Behind them, Basin is suddenly moving very quickly. Can he keep that speed up off of turn 4? Looks pretty good to me. He's trying to take it away from the 67 of Horn.
And really interesting here from Dylan Basin is last time we saw he was able to kind of command that outside lane and use it to his advantage. And we saw him here sitting on that inside lane, maybe trying to use it to his advantage, but also not burn his stuff up like he did last run. So kind of sit down on that inside lane just a little more and only use it when he needs to pass guys ahead of him. That could be a winning strategy here. Is Kevin King once again going to get stacked up in the corner? He has good exit speed, but on entry, that 88 is just struggling.
So Kevin going to have to overcome those shortcomings here. He's going to ride down low following the 20 into the corner as the 011 swings it from way high down to the very bottom at the apron, using up as much track as he can. Can see them still trying to poke their noses out at different lines throughout this top group. This time running very high, the 20. Looks like he's going to see if that high line works for him at all, and it does decently. The 88 can't do anything to him, but he also didn't really lose any time.
And now Wyatt Tinsley all of a sudden down on the inside, going to look for the lead, but he's not going to have the real estate to work with that. And going to have to fall back once again. And you're starting to see these guys get aggressive. You see back here, that's Malik Ray, Kyler Wynn. I believe it's David Brown on the outside. They're 3 wide at the moment, starting to get bunched up just a little bit. Malik Ray washing up on that inside lane, but they're going to keep it straight. We might be 4 wide here.
Oof, that was very lucky for Kyler Wynn. I thought Malik was going to just drift in and hook him once again. They go from 3 wide back down to 2 wide and a Noah's Ark of pairs. But it looks like Highline still is the place to be at this stage of the run. Falkingham picking up and putting down multiple spots. Cut stack back down to the bottom, though. In the meantime, the 19 of Nick Miller, though, is who is caught up on the outside at this stage. And it seems like, despite having that outside, it's not quite working for him. Falkingham going to get another one. That's 11th spot for him.
And again, you got to think here, with no cautions, we've just been flying through these laps. I mean, we're, again, almost halfway now through stage 2. It felt like stage 1, it flew by, and this one's gone by even quicker with some of those green flag pit stops. I mean, you feel that Annie's starting to pick up just a little bit, where the stakes might be rising as we just click off laps and get closer to the end of this race?
I wouldn't doubt that we'd see a few drivers get a little bit weary out there. You got to think that this green flag racing is going to fray the nerves, especially as close as they've been fighting and as frantic as it's been out there. Someone's got to slip up eventually. I'll be mightily impressed if they do go lights to flag without a single yellow.
Yeah, it's exceptionally rare for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series, but when we get it, I mean, it usually turns into a pretty dicey race. And I mean, you see it here. They have been racy up at the front. You know, like you said, they haven't had any cautions, but it's not for a lack of trying by any means. I mean, these guys are just all over each other, and I think the fact that we haven't had a yellow yet is more of just a streak of chance rather than anything of merit.
Yeah, really. The racing gods have been smiling on them today, that is for sure, because we had some close ones and drivers who have had to chase the car around when they got out of shape out of a few of the corners so far. We're starting to get closer to that second stage as well. We're on lap 65. It's going to be on the end of lap 80 for this next stage. So only about 15, 16 more to go here.
And again, this run is so similar to that first stint we saw, where now it's Kevin King and Parker White who are starting to put a little distance on Sean Butler and Wyatt Tinsley here, trying to break away. And it was Kevin King and Wyatt Tinsley who were able to do somewhat of the same thing here in stage number 1, and it looks like Parker White and Kevin King are attempting to replicate that once again.
Yeah, if it continues to go green all the way to the finish, those are the two I think we should watch out for. The 011 and the 88 seem to be good towards the end of the stint. As long as they time it right, they seem to have command of that pace and of the tires to put themselves in the right position. So, but I think critically what I was just noticing as well is, despite, like you said, we've had none of the yellows and we've had a lot of dicey moments. What's more amazing is the fact that there's been no true runaways that have stuck. We've seen a couple cars get far ahead, but they always seem to get reeled back in, and there's never been someone who seems to dominate here.
Yeah, it really has been just great parity throughout top 5, even top 10, where we see so much shuffling, and all of these guys have race-winning speed. Even Bryler Pratt is another guy who was kind of trapped up in the back earlier, but now that he's gotten shuffled back out a little bit, he has shown that he has speed. So you got to think there are other guys like that back through the pack. Jimmy Mullis is one as well. We haven't said his name much tonight, but it's not for lack of speed. He's now to the outside of Dylan Basin with Wyatt Tinsley trying to make something work.
Basin wants back into this. He knows he's got good pace. He's just lost it from time to time. What's interesting, speaking of parity, is the top 30 are all split by less than 10 seconds. That's almost the whole field. Now, we do have a couple that are a lap down, as we mentioned earlier, but for the most part, the vast majority of the pack have remained extremely close together, and that's after a pit stop, which has a history of separating the field, but it hasn't in this case.
And I mean, even going back to qualifying, I mean, our pole sitter, Sean Butler, ran a 35, and I think 35th was only about a 10th back off of that or something like that. So, I mean, these guys are all, they all have pace within each other. It's just, again, trying to get the opportunity to showcase that up at the front.
11 laps till the end of the stage now. And again, if you're not used to this series, there's not going to be a caution thrown unless there is an accident for that stage. It's just straight through. Last time out, drivers all pretty much dove in as soon as it was done with and took some fresh rubber and some fuel and got back out on the track. Will we get similar strategy, or is someone going to maybe try and take a gamble? Because we'll be into the third stage of the race. That'll be the longest one, and with double the length of what we had before. In fact, slightly more than that. That could wind up being a little bit more tricky.
And another thing that's so great about this car track combination as well is when these tires get worn out, you see so often, usually when you do have worn out tires, that everybody, has one lane that they prefer really throughout the entire field. And we do get single file racing, but I mean, you've seen in the corners, everybody just starts to fan out. Parker White and Kevin King especially, they've been running basically everywhere, and you can see it once again. I mean, even though their tires are shot right now, they can still run wherever they want to, and it makes for just some fun racing to sit back and watch.
This place certainly seems to have the right equation out there for the curves and the banking to give lots of opportunities to race side by side. And we have not seen a clear winner here today, although we do have our eyes on Parker White and Kevin King, who have been up towards the front for much of it. Tinsley's been kind of hovering around as well there in that third spot, and we got a change for the lead. Kevin King is sick of sitting in P2. He's going to try the move on the bottom side, but it doesn't stick.
That's where you see that tire wear is on fresh tires. He would have been able to just pull that car down to the inside and have the run off the corner, but again, this rubber's killed, so you have to kind of plan your moves a little bit more, where it's going to take a bigger surge of momentum than that for Parker White to be passed here by Kevin King.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and play the game, see what he can get going. Mullis back in the third position there. You saw on the yellow machine, just kind of giving watch as well. We got some side-by-side action with LaPrade, who gets up behind the 32 of Sean Butler, gives him a hello, but they can't go any farther forward. That's Mercurio around the outside in the number 41, and Kyler Wynn just in front of them. Ooh, man, look at this run from Mercurio. Looks like he's going to be fully passed, and he can chop down if he wants to down into turn one.
Again, seeing him fan out. That's Blake Reynolds all the way up in the middle lane on the outside of Kyler Wynn right now. This is for the 9th position currently. You see, I mean, again, you can just run wherever you want, really. And Parker White now with Kevin King side by side for the lead. And Parker White is holding on for dear life right now. Coming to 5 laps to go in stage number 2 now. Kevin King doesn't want to be the bridesmaid once again. He wants this stage win for himself in his championship quest. Those points are so valuable, so important that you know, this one stage can make or break you when you come playoff time, rather.
Kind of interesting how he's tried this bottom line a couple times and they haven't worked in any of them, but the 88 isn't giving up on it. Not sure if he'll have to eventually try the high side or if he'll just give up on that bottom and wait patiently until a better opportunity comes about. Up to lap 77 now. The end of the stage creeps ever closer, starting to get a bit of a 5-car breakaway with Basin at the back of it. Wyatt Tinsley in there with Mullis, as we mentioned. You have to go about 1.2 seconds down to 6th place, which is currently Buttafuoco.
And we are now in the buffer zone for stage number 2, 4 laps before the end of the stage. There'll be no cautions, so everybody trying to keep it together now because, you know, we've gone caution-free so far today, and Wyatt Tinsley, Jimmy Mullis, again, just so close here. Like you said, we are starting to see this 5-car breakaway just a little bit from Daniel Buttafuoco. And if you are in this top 5, this is exactly what you want to see, because if you make a move that doesn't quite stick or something like that, this surge of momentum doesn't carry out for you, then, you know, the worst place you can be is in this 5th position. So these guys, I don't think they have any problem running in this 5-car pack they've been in.
Yeah, it's got a healthy enough lead at this stage. I think you're right that they're just trying to get themselves track position and see what sort of points they can get for the stage break, as we're going to come around to one more lap till those points are doled out. This is lap 80 now, so at the end of this one, they're going to get those bonus points, but how many? Basin going around the outside. He looks pretty good, but the momentum starts to go away. Can he finish the job? He's got it now.
A big move there from Dylan Basin. We know he has speed, and it's a little too late for him to try to use this outside lane. Coming out of turn 4, looks like once again Parker White's race to lose.
Parker White going to claim the most points here in the end of the 2nd stage, with Kevin King claiming 2nd behind him. And thought maybe we had a pitter there, but it looks like it's just cars battling side by side in the mid-pack, 3 wide right now for 14th or so. But who will decide to pit in now that we have just finished that 2nd stage and give up some track position to try and get some fresh rubber and see if they can undercut somebody?
Now, the longest gap I've seen so far is about 40 laps or so in this race, and we are just about 4 laps away from that for your leaders. So I'd expect them to come down within the next 5 laps or so. And in which configuration they'll come out, that's a different story, because we saw, again, Parker White took the lead from Wyatt Tinsley on that last round of stops, and Wyatt Tinsley is here in striking distance in 4th position, so maybe he can try to return the favor and get back to the point here.
David Brown's going to be our first taker, so let's see what he can do from here, what kind of stop it's going to be. And it looks like it is full 4 tires for him, so not going to gamble on 2. And get back out with a pretty good one at 14.5 seconds. Naturally, he does go a lap down, so he's vulnerable. Still haven't seen any other people come in. So maybe drivers just trying to stretch it a little bit longer, knowing that they've got to potentially make a very long green flag run for the final stage.
And again, just kind of riding in at this point. Lawson Peel comes over the radio, says that he's coming in. And I'd expect a lot of the field to follow suit right now, especially if you don't have this track position. where this top 5 is going to try to extend this for as long as possible. I think if you're around that 10th range where, you know, a Daniel Falkingham, Briar LaPrade, maybe Brandon Cattell, again, somebody we saw with considerable speed, I think maybe you try to play the pit strategy cards just slightly, come in a few laps early, and maybe bank for a caution to try to make up track position here.
Peel and Horn are trying just that. They're both in now. Thought we'd see a lot more drivers pitting at this stage, but just doesn't seem to be the case. Looks like Horn is back out. Is this a long one for Peel? No, Peel had a standard stop and is on his way. So when will we see the top drivers pit in?
You got to think, too, we have just about 82 laps to go, very close to halfway here. Maybe if they stretch this run out a little bit, they can try and make this a one-stopper the rest of the way, where you pit right now, you go for 40 laps, you pit one more time, and then go off to the races, per se, for the end here. That's my only guess as to why they wouldn't be coming in sooner.
Yeah, try to limit it to just a two-stop race, potentially. That could be the call that we're seeing out here. Those tires are going to be a mess by the end of it.
Yeah, you can already see him getting wiggly here. It's gonna cost him in the short run here, and you saw Dylan Basin with a big wiggle right there. And again, handling is so important right now. 40 laps into this stint. These guys haven't gone this far on tires, and Dylan Basin with Wyatt Tinsley. They're trying to go 3 wide, just not gonna work. And that's a recipe for your first caution of the day right there.
Still hasn't happened, though. Still green since lap 1, and we're on lap 87 now, as they've been doing phenomenal. Buttafuoco is now going to be pitting in. Looks like Nick Olson also taking service a little bit farther down in the pack. Curious to see what Peel and who else was it? Nick Olson, I think it was. No, Nick Olson just pitted. I was trying to think of who else it was that we saw pit in much earlier. The longer they go, the more laps that they're going to have fresh tires compared to the others. But the converse of that is that when everybody else pits, they're going to be on the old tires then.
And we're just going to have to wait and see past halfway at this point now. Chris Overland, who had that speeding penalty on the last run, is now coming in. Parker White says he's pitting in this time, and now that's going to be the cue for everybody else to come down the pit road. Sean Butler comes over the radio as well. Start to see right here.
The dominoes fall, but look at this, side by side for a bunch of them. Are these guys pitting? No. Looks like they are not, at least most of them. Others are diving down in.
Oh, Derek Justice!
Did he speed there? I think I'm going to double check that one. I wonder if he did speed.
If he did, he was awfully close, but like you said, domino's starting to fall, and it is really hard to get on the pit lane here at Las Vegas. And like you said, the cornering speeds here, it's about 150, so getting all the way woed down to pit lane speed is so difficult. Dylan Basin now peeling off.
Justice with a black flag for speeding. Scherer as well, also suffering that ignominy, unfortunately. So the drivers may be pushing a little bit too hard, but we're seeing the majority of them now in. King still leads and needs his second stop. That goes all the way down to essentially 8th place at this stage.
And your Barr Visuals FTF 500 champ, Ryan Doucette, now on pit road. Kevin King, Jimmy Mullis both coming onto the pit lane now. These are your 2 leaders. Blake Reynolds behind them. Briar LaPrade coming in hot again. So hard not to speed here with how shot these tires are. Getting, again, heavy braking here. Tires aren't going to really enjoy that.
Certainly not. And let's see. Will we get anybody leapfrogging, since we had a little bit of a wider variety compared to last time as to who pit when? And let's see who is up to speed here. Parker White is. Got to think he's going to hold on to that top spot once we get done with the pit stops here. It was a good stop for him at 14.5 seconds. King is rolling, but White is up to speed, and he breezes by him.
Once again from Parker White here, just great in and out, no mistakes, clean green flag pit stop, and it's really put him in position now where he has a considerable gap down to Wyatt Tinsley, who had a good set of stops there. And as they cycle out, look at that. I mean, almost a second and a half, more than a second and a half gap for Parker White back to Wyatt Tinsley, and now all of a sudden kind of want to caution if you're Wyatt Tinsley on back to group this field back up together, because it's going to take a lot. Again, Parker White's been the dominant car of the day. I guess if anybody can do it, it can be Wyatt Tinsley, who had so much speed in stage number 1.
Two of the earliest stoppers, David Brown and Connor Horn, did in fact make up a bunch of spots. Connor's up to 4th. Brown is into P9, although he's starting to lose a few of them. With 10-lap older tires than most of those around him, he'll be feeling the effects. But temporarily, he does have better track position.
I mean, same thing we saw last run. I mean, Connor Horn was up inside the top 5, and as we got to about that 25 lap marker on the tires, that's where we saw them really start to subside, where everybody else was just able to drive right by him. So they're going to need a caution here within the next 10, 15 laps if they want to really optimize this strategy. But again, it's possible here at Las Vegas. We thought we were going to have a few, but looking to try to go wire to wire here.
Well, with the stops done, that's going to take us to a quick break here on FTF.gg. Stick around. We've got the latter half of the Provisional Gamble 400K here after this. Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We're on lap 100 now of the Provisional Gamble 400K, round 3 of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. And Parker White is your leader by about a second over Tinsley. But Caleb, it seems like though he has jumped Wyatt in those pit stops, Wyatt has pace of his own. He's cut it down by about half a second in just a couple laps.
For the break, we were saying if anybody can get back up here to Parker White, it's going to be this 020 car of Wyatt Tinsley. Excuse me, just the 20 car of Wyatt Tinsley, because that speed he had in stage 1 just unparalleled so far today. Where he was running in the 30-second range, he ran a 39 or a 30.9 is his best lap of the race, which is 0.2 faster than Parker White. So Wyatt Tinsley has the pace to catch back up with him. It's just matter of not burning his stuff up in order to accomplish that goal.
And in stark contrast to those first stops where I said even after the pit stops, our top 30 were split by 10 seconds, that's now narrowed down to only the top 18 split by 10 seconds. And in fact, so we're down to 34 drivers left on the lead lap. We also noticed during the break that Doucette suffered some sort of black flag on his way into pit lane. He seems to have since DNF'd. Not sure if that was a rage quit or if he had something go wrong out there. Regardless, he's our latest to be done since Payne and Cootie have also ended their races prematurely. Still got plenty of action, though, despite the spread up at the front. You can see our mid-pack here as they vie for the 8th position. That's Mullis leading LaPrade and Malik Ray.
And Wyatt Tinsley just continues to reel in Parker White here. Lap times right now, they're running about 400 seconds faster that last time from Wyatt Tinsley, so pretty even here at the moment. That time again only about a 300th difference in lap time there. So while there is a marginal difference in speed at this point in the race, Wyatt Tinsley has enough time, 64 laps to go right now, that he will be able, if he just runs slightly faster, he can start to reel in this 011 machine up at the front.
And critically for him, he's also outpacing Basin behind him. And credit to Dylan, he is back in the top 3, but he definitely doesn't have the stuff that we can see of the 011 and the 20. It's up to 2.5 seconds at this stage. So it's becoming a 2-horse race if we stay green, but that can all change in the blink of an eye, especially at a track like this. And the more lap traffic that we start to see, the more likely that things could get tangled.
Absolutely, and as we continue to inch closer to the end of this race, I mean, I think it's more and more likely that we'll see an incident. The fact that we've gone this long really is surprising to me, but maybe we see something similar to last week at Auto Club, where Auto Club only, they had an early on incident, but then for most of that race, they ran it clean until about 20 laps to go, and then we just had a cascade type of event with cautions where we just kept getting them after everybody was bunched back up together. So maybe we see a similar effect here, but to get that, we're going to need an initial caution. And how they're running right now and how they've been running, not going to happen.
Yeah, so massively impressive from what these drivers have displayed, which you would hope for, considering, like we said, the skill level just to reach this race with 90 different drivers having to pre-qualify to get into this thing, and only half of those making it in. So we continue to watch White versus Tinsley. It's now down to 0.5 of a second. So since the pit stops, he has chopped off a full second from the number 011. It's looking very much to be in favor of Tinsley. As we said, time is on his side.
Absolutely. And going back to just the steep level of competition here so far today, looking at some of these guys that DNQ'd, I mean, it's not small names. I mean, Michael Cozy Jr., who is a Coke Series driver, missed out on this race. Zach Novak as well. Phil McCandless, who is a guy with a lot of pace. Alex Kalnick, Spencer Ray, Sebastian Mayer, Andy Margot, John Poole, Seth Knoll, Art Reimer, Brett Pincari, Matt Danson, who had a lot of speed in the Barr Visuals FTF 500. I mean, all these guys have race winning speed, and all of them didn't even have a chance to show it here today. So, I mean, just to make the field is an accomplishment on its own, and to dominate it so far like Parker White and Wyatt Tinsley have, it's just even more of a statement, because they have been in a league of their own, and that's evident on the scoreboard right now. You're looking up Parker White with 0.5 second advantage over Wyatt Tinsley, but both of these guys just, 2.5, 3 seconds over third place on back. So just a clinic they're putting on here at Las Vegas, and it's super fun to just sit back here and watch.
That was Kyler Wynn in the silver and red that we saw take the 18th position off of the 45 just there. So looks like even in the mid-pack, they're still picking them up and putting them down as they are on lap 110 here of this race. So pretty soon we're going to be within about a normal stage away from the finish of this race. And up at the front, I thought I saw some movement with Basin and Falkingham, but they have not changed position. It's still Basin third and Falkingham in fourth, but he's awful close. We're instead watching this battling still down in the mid-pack once again along the back stretch, and trying to fight for what looks like about sixth position. Blake Reynolds at the lead of this group in the 66.
And again, looking at the parity within this top 20, really, I mean, how many of these names do you recognize from running up inside the top 10 today? Looking at the ticker, I mean, Brian Mercurio in 11th had a lot of speed. Michael P. Frisch, Connor Horn was up there with his pitch strategy. Sean Butler poked his nose up inside the top 3, top 5 all day. Brian LaPrad's a guy who last year was in contention for this race win. Daniel Buttafuoco as well. Malik Ray in the top 10 has been floating around here all day. It's just been so much fun to watch these guys kind of battle around, and I know a lot of them are hoping for a caution at this point in the race, but even so, it's just been impressive to see them shuffle around as they have, where so many guys are able to come out here and run consistently up front with pace. It's just been, again, so much fun to watch.
That's LaPrade here at the front of this trio in 8th position. Buttafuoco goes up high as Malik Ray cuts to the bottom. Ooh, Ray's showing a little bit of looseness now. We're still relatively early in the stint. It's 21 laps in, 22 laps in really, since their pit stops. So shouldn't be feeling too much of that, but he's going to get it away from Daniel regardless. A bit surprised that the 007 is as far back as he is. I mean, 9th place isn't that bad, mind you, but he's 5 seconds off the lead is really the shocking thing.
And I mean, it only feels like we're early in the run, just out of stark contrast from how long they ran on that last stint. I mean, looking at lap times, once again, right now, we are at about lap 25, which is almost halfway into this stint. Or actually, no, over halfway into the stint for these guys. And tire fall-off right now is hitting them. About half a second lap time difference. And actually looking at it, over a full second of fall off here. So I mean, these guys are struggling with handling right now, and it might not be as evident. And as soon as I say that, behind Malik Ray, it was Daniel Buttafuoco. The car stepped out on him just a little bit, got a little wobbly. It's going to open the door for Brian Mercurio. So these guys, in addition to racing each other right now, are really having to race this track and battle at every lap. And it's so easy to have one step out on you any corner. So the fact that we haven't seen even one guy do that so far is just, it again speaks to the testament of how skilled this field is.
Well, I can give you some numbers to kind of put some perspective on that. Lowest I rating in this top 10 is 6,000. This is pretty packed up here.
I'll ignore that at my 1,500 I rating or somewhere in there. No, Dylan Basin. Wow, big moment for him. Sorry. But he just stepped out big time in front of Kevin King in the 3rd position.
Yeah, it seems like we are getting a little bit loose out there. The track is up to 125 now, continuing to rise bit by bit throughout. So is that chewing up the tires? Or the drivers just getting a little bit weary, not having had much of any break except for just stopping in for the pits there briefly? Yeah, earlier I was going to say we don't want to talk about what my oval rating is. I'm definitely a little bit more suited to the roadside.
I mean, even on the roadside, I'm not good. So, I mean, there's a reason I'm up here in the booth and not out on the racetrack right now. But Dylan Basin, I think, is a key guy that we're looking at in terms of this, an illustration of this tire fall off. I mean, that car is just not happy anywhere. If he runs that middle lane where his momentum and speed is carrying a little bit more, that car is going to step out on him big. And then he tries to run that inside, and he just loses the nose where it gets super tight and washes up the racetrack. So that 04 car really not handling well right now, and that's really unfortunate for a guy, again, who's had so much pace today, and it looks like starting to fall off just a little bit. That 04 machine, you see Blake Reynolds peeking down to the inside now, side by side for the P4 position, and that outside lane going to carry him just a little bit, but I think Blake Reynolds and Jimmy Mullis are going to be around this 04 sooner than later.
Yeah, that's Mullis in the yellow just behind them, and well, is about to be in front of Basin. It's been just an up and down day for Basin, at times lightning quick and at times seeming to lack the pace. He's boxed in as Mullis holds low and now has visions of trying to overtake the former Coke driver of Blake Reynolds. Here, the 66 drifts up a little bit high. Does appear that Mullis is the fastest of the three.
And you can see that's evident at this point as he gets around Blake Reynolds with ease. And on this high side, that 46, again, when you're struggling with handling on that inside lane, getting the car woed down and trying to stick it all the way to that bottom lane is not going to be the most practical. Whereas if you take a wider arc and again, let the right side of the car kind of sit in the track a little more, it can help with handling this late into the run. So you'll start to see guys drift up to that middle lane just a little bit. Kevin King, another guy as well, who's had a lot of pace. But again, it's just been Wyatt Tinsley and Parker White in a league of their own as they are starting to come up on lap traffic. Parker White alongside longtime FTF founder Justin Malillo, Chris Wetz as well. And now Parker White going to dip down in front of the 053 and put another one a lap down.
Yeah, Parker still running a good race. Tinsley briefly running him down, but now Parker has got it under control once again. Maybe the tires just evened out between them. Maybe Tinsley a little bit better early on the run and White preserving his stuff for later on. But whatever the case, it seems like he's got it well managed. Somebody way up high there. I'm trying to see who that was coming out of turn 4. Oh, and we got somebody into pit lane as well.
That's really interesting as well. Looks like that's Shear.
Yeah, and he's already a lap down. So this is a gamble, I'm
Mason's
guessing.
a big one though, and we saw him. He was not happy with how that car was handling, and that's pretty evident now as he's going to be one of the first to come down. And again, I think if you bank on a caution here, it's not the worst idea because it's really similar to what we saw last week at Auto Club as well. But how that plays out for the 04 machine is something to watch for sure.
And Scherer's in, but not because of strategy, but because he ran into the 12 car. We nearly had a yellow again, but got away with it. That was Lawson Peel that he banged into, and it gave a meatball flag to the number 09. So that's why he's down in pit lane.
We'll get that replay for you. You can see this contact. And yeah, so late in this run that, and that's hard contact. I'm not sure how we didn't have a caution for that. Maybe because he got out of the racing groove there off the pace, but super close there. Connor Horn comes over the intercom, says that he's going to bring that 04 machine down onto the pit lane as well now. And you can see Lawson Peel again with more after effects of that wreck. And just really close calls again. We saw with Corey Carpenter earlier as well. They've been trying to wreck. We just, again, as you said, the racing gods have been smiling down on us today and want us to go green, apparently.
Connor Horn pits in. Heard a couple others. DeAngelis is down on the lane. Scotty Smith. So mostly the drivers who seem to be lacking some speed, maybe have lost the lead lap, figuring they've got nothing to lose here. Might as well stop early, see where it puts them, and try and get some pace on some fresh rubber before the leaders pit in. Scotty Smith is back out and rolling. And Logan Helton also finds his pit stall. He came in from just inside the top 20. So it's kicking off.
Yeah, and we're to that threshold at this point where we've seen lap 40 is the magic number, and we just crossed 40 to go. I think all bets are off at this point, where you'll start to see everybody come down. Here within the next 5 laps, we'll see that cycle fully play through. And that's Jordan Worth onto the pit lane now. You'll see, I don't know, maybe we have these guys stay out a little longer. We saw they were able to push it last time to around that 43, 44 lap marker mark. Maybe you are planning for some green-white checkers in there. But otherwise, I think if you're in this top 5, you're going to be coming around through the pit lane soon. And Dylan Basin, who we saw came on the pit lane early, he is just shredding through this field right now. Lap time about a second advantage, and you can see him just dicing around these guys in the corner. It's such night and day comparison.
And I think based on that we could see Dylan take the lead after the pit stops, but then he's going to have to try and hold back guys like White and Tinsley if he can make up enough time on them. We're seeing more and more drivers pit in. I kind of think if I'm the 20 of Tinsley, I'd try and undercut White here because he was catching him early and might as well get the track position first and then try and fend him off later.
And you're starting to see everybody who hasn't pit yet with some big handling issues at this point. Blake Reynolds made some considerable contact with Blake Reynolds that last time by, and almost another incident there with Gary Sexton, who pulled out in front of Kevin King right there. I mean, he just slowed down in the middle of the racing line and came down the track in front of the 88. So almost just ended his day right there twice in one lap. So it's starting to get dicey. Just got to nurse it to be able to get into the pit lane.
All right, still haven't seen White come in. He's going to stay out. Mullison, Reynolds keep going. So what is this going to do now that we've had Tinsley take his stop? And where is he in comparison to the driver that we saw pit earlier? Oh, and it looks like he will pit in. So Mullis stays out.
Parker White coming down the pit lane now. He should have a 4-lap about advantage to the end of this race. So everybody pitting now will be good to the end. It's just now it's purely a race off this pit lane. And consensus, 4 tires and fuel. Get as much fuel in the car as you can. Put some 4 freshies on it and just let the driver go at it and make up all these spots.
Caleb, 7 laps difference between Basin and Tinsley, and he's put what looks to be about 5 seconds on him. This has worked out fantastically for Dylan Basin. This stop might be the thing that wins him this race, but it's still a long ways to go. He's got to survive for 35 laps, and he's going to have a tire disadvantage.
Absolutely right now for Dylan Basin, who, again, as we continue to cycle around at the moment, and he's, again, already 9 laps into this stint, so, I mean, it'll be about 43, 44 laps if we go green to the end here. And again, he's just going to be bleeding lap time here for a few laps. So there is that sweet spot about 15 laps from now for Dylan Basin, where, again, everybody behind him is going to have a big advantage when it comes to tires. That Dylan Basin, I think right now, he just needs to nurse himself at this point in the run to have some tire, just like an ace in the hole, I guess you could say. You don't want to shred off all your lap time right now trying to make up this track position.
All right, we're getting the last few. I heard Blake Reynolds announce that he's going to be pitting in.
Man, this is close right here. Parker White back in, stepped out just a little bit. And they're 4 wide, 3 wide. Big move from the 011 there. And again, you got to be so careful. We saw that here last year with Dylan Alt and Dylan Basin up at the front of the field. Both of them dominated this race last year, and you can see Jimmy Mullis, Blake Reynolds, Briar LaPrat, everybody coming down the pit lane. But guys that dominate this race, you're not out of trouble just yet. You got to make sure that you keep this car out of trouble for the next 33 laps to get to the end of it.
Wow, so things getting a little bit frantic with all the different tire strategies out there. I was about to say it's a lot more varied than what we saw in the previous 2 pit stops, both also under green, but drivers are spreading themselves out, and that difference in pace makes it all the trickier to try and navigate and understand who's going to do what out on the track. Still looking for Cattell to pit in. We still need Nate Stewart, but Basin's back on the lead lap now, and he's just about taking the lead back. In fact, he will now, because it looks like Brandon Cattell is in.
As you said, that is going to hand the lead now to Dylan Basin. And second place, Nate Stewart. You see him come back down. Lap 45 on this stint. Now resets back to 0 as he comes for 4 fresh tires and fuel. And Dylan Basin now, the cards are in his hands now. Parker White, 5 laps into this stint, 6 seconds back Is he going to be able to overcome that gap, or will he succumb to it? We'll see. With 31 laps to go, it's going to be for the race win here.
I was right. Yeah, about 5.5 seconds. So it might have even been 6 or 7 earlier, depending on if White and Tinsley have made up much time since that they exited the pits. With that being the last of our pitters, I believe that's going to take us to another quick break here on FTF.gg. Stick around. The final few laps of the Provisional Gamble 400K is coming up. Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The last laps of the Provisional Gamble 400K and the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series is coming down to it. But I think that the chances are getting lower and lower for Basin to be able to take the win. He leads after the final pit stops, having pitted early and undercut White and Tinsley. But look at how the gap is quickly dissipating here, Caleb. It's down to less than half a second.
Yeah, when we left you for break just 2 minutes ago, it was almost a 5-second gap. And here we go. Huge run for Parker White. He's going to be to the inside of Dylan Basin for the race lead. And Parker White slot him to where he's been for most of the day. Back to P number 1, Wyatt Tinsley catching up quickly to these two. But Dylan Basin, this car has just been struggling with handling. He's super loose right now. And we saw him with speed in this first stage. Thought maybe he played the fuel strategy, the pit strategy just right. But quickly, his chances of winning this race are dwindling.
The ace up Dylan's sleeve here at Vegas just did not beat the flush that Parker White had on strategy and pace out there today, managing to run down and now pass the leader with 24 laps to go. Normally, we'd be worried, I think, about Wyatt Tinsley. What can he do with White? But, man, that's already a second and a half. Wyatt also got beat by this one. Parker's been just kind of a cut above everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I thought without Jacob today that we wouldn't have any dumb card jokes being made, but we've just been able to fit in so many puns here today. It's really blown my mind. But yeah, I think even within their own echelon with Parker White and Wyatt Tinsley, I mean, Parker White has had an advantage over this 20 machine. Wyatt Tinsley now trying to get around Dylan Basin, and it looks like it's a little more of a challenge for this 20 machine. And again, Parker White's opened up this gap to about a second and a half. And even Kwame Scott had to the inside now of Wyatt Tinsley.
Yeah, and Tinsley is just managed to get by Basin, but like you said, Scott trying to get his lap back. I'm surprised that Zach didn't warn you that I'm quite the joker when it comes to card puns. But anyways, it's still Basin in third, as Malik Ray is the next one to run him down. 4 seconds to make up there. And it's, let's see, last lap, 32.1 for Malik Ray. That was actually slow compared to his previous one, so not sure if he had some issue. Still faster to 32.7 for Basin. This does not bode well. I think Dylan might even fall off the podium.
And looking back right now, Malik Ray in the 4th position. He has about a 4-second gap to make up at this point, but with how Dylan Bason's been handling, it's looking like that's going to continue to dwindle here over the last 20 laps. And everybody at this point in the race kind of just running in their own bubbles. Parker White has about a 2-second advantage. Dylan Basin about a second back from Wyatt Tinsley. Malik Ray 3 seconds back. Jimmy Mullis is the closest, but even he's about a half a second back, and then 2 more seconds back. And Blake Reynolds, I mean, with these margins right now, it looks more typical of what you're used to calling in road racing.
Indeed, but one driver that's definitely made up a lot of positions throughout this is Michael Frisch, as we see the side-by-side there with the 46 going at it right now. But wanted to highlight Frisch because he's up 25. He's tied with Jimmy Mullis as the hard charger currently. But I feel like Frisch tends to have caught my eye more so because he's consistently had that high number of gains all race long. He started out low, as you can see, but hasn't really bothered the back of the field since the drop of the green. He just kind of worked his way up to the midfield and now is flirting with a potential top 10.
And meanwhile, we're flirting with a wire-to-wire race here, which I think would have blown your mind if you know, what is it, like an hour and a half ago, if I would have said that. But, I mean, here we are with 18 to go. We haven't had a caution yet. We've had a few close calls, but with everybody running so spread out, you know, maybe a few of these guys running further towards the back might make a little contact or something to that nature. We have a 3-wide battle on the racetrack right now involving your race leader trying to get around lap traffic. But either way, they're going to get that sorted out, and we're going to go back to single file. And it's just, again, more and more unlikely here that we get a caution.
I wonder what the over-under was for cautions coming into this. Not sure if anybody knows what the bookies were predicting out there, but if they were predicting 0, then yes, I would have been shocked. This is some good action here along the back stretch as they come into turn 3 once again, trying to decide positions here for the mid-pack as they dice their way past the start-finish line with now a mere 16 laps to go. And this has been quite the display of skill in a number of ways out there. We even saw at one point, we were watching Dylan Basin during the break, got so sketchy trying to save the car as he went down low. And, well, speaking of Basin getting sketchy, he's down to 4th. Mullis is caught and passed him extremely quickly.
And Mullis is on the move right now, trying to crawl back to Wyatt Tinsley. I'm not sure with 15 laps to go, if we go green to the end here, if he quite has the time to get all the way back there. And now Liam Sheen's going to go around on the front stretch, and this might be just the first caution of the race. He spins out and not going to wire here. It's Liam Sheen in the 73 who is going to put us under the first caution of the day with 14 laps to go, and that's the one we were waiting on that completely now changes the outlook of this race.
A sort of single car incident. He didn't do it all on his own. He had some help. It was the number 4 of Nate Stewart behind him. They were checking up because it was, ironically, Ryan Naraki in front of them that was a little bit slow. And unfortunately for the 73, when he checked up, Nate didn't get the memo. There it is, and it was a pretty hard hit there into the outside wall. He's still going. He got the car up and running, but we are going to reset with about a 10-lap shootout here with what I think is going to be a very little chance of us going all the way to that checkered flag under green, because now they're going to be crunched back together. There is not going to be the gaps that we saw before, and everybody's going to be hungry for position.
Not only everybody hungry for position, but we were at about that 25-lap marker. And this is great for Dylan Basin. I'm sure he's super happy to see this caution. He was, again, at that discrepancy here where he's about 11 laps older on tires, but this caution falls about perfectly where he's still up inside this top 5, and everybody's going to come down the pit lane. There's nobody that's going to stay out on tires this old.
Yeah, those are lapped cars that you saw staying off on the track here to come back around, get their laps back. But you're right, everybody on the lead lap is pitted in. Nobody's going to gamble it, because it does look like fresh tires are king here. It is not track position that you need to be as worried about. Who's going to get a quick stop, though?
This is the race right here. Parker White has done so good on these green flag pit stops so far today, getting in and getting out of the box cleanly. Don't think we're going to see any two-tire strategy calls so far, and it's going to be Parker White going to win this race off pit road.
I think we had one gambler out there. Frank DeAngelis looks like he passed on taking his pit stop. He's 30 laps into his stint. White will exit first, as you said. Tinsley, second of those. So they'll be P2 and P3, respectively. Basin comes out in fourth. He beat Mullis in that pit stop sequence. And the drivers have all, other than Frank DeAngelis, taken fresh rubber on this one. We're coming back around. We should have a couple more laps before we get to the green. But this has set up a fascinating end to what has already been a bit of a shocking race.
Yeah, and I don't know about Frank DeAngelis here. I think he might have missed his box or something like that, or missed the commitment line, something of that nature.
He didn't go down pit lane. There he goes.
Here he comes now. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say on 30-lap old tires, I mean, maybe with 2 laps to go, and even then that's a stretch, but 12 to go, just no chance. But he does dip that car down onto the pit lane, and now all of a sudden it's everybody who's had so much speed up front, but all of them now have fresh rubber and are put in a position where one move really can make or break your race at this point. Parker White's been the dominant car of the day. Wyatt Tinsley's had speed. Dylan Basin had speed early on this top 3. All of them now, again, with fresh tires and a tank full of gas that can go to the end. So it's just going to be a pure showdown now to the end of this race.
I was really hoping that we'd get the Austin Powers moment of I too like to live dangerously. And he'd stay out, but no. Yeah, he was smarter than that. He kind of knew that was going to be a losing battle, unfortunately, with everybody else coming in. If he had a few others maybe that stayed with him, I think there could have been slightly more of a shot. But yeah, no, it's he was going to fall down the field like a rock, unfortunately. Look at how many cars had been lapped that are trying to get one of those back. Our lucky dog, I believe, was the number 69. And got waved back around onto the lead lap. That's that is Frank DeAngelis, so that's why he stayed out, actually.
I think it was actually going to be Lawson Peel in that 12 machine, and Frank DeAngelis again. Frank DeAngelis was on the lead lap when that caution came out. So looking back up at the front, Nick Olson, Jack Mace, Chris Wetz, Gary Sexton, Justin Malillo, Derek Justice, Matthew Zwack, Cosminayo Neshu, Chris Overland, Liam Sheen, Corey Carpenter, Zach Hudson, Ryan Naraki. These are all guys that were 1 or more laps down who will now get one back. That's going to set the field up for Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley, and Dylan Basin to lead this field to the green flag. And you're going to see out of turn number 2 here, they're going to come to that blue pit exit line, which will serve as our choose cone for this race. We haven't had to talk about it much tonight, but here we go with 10 laps to go. We're going to be using it for the first time.
I mean, what would your call be, inside or outside, if you were that 011?
10 laps to go at this point in the race. I think you have to go to the outside. He's going to disagree with me, though, and go on the inside. I think that outside lane has had the short run advantage, and with 10 laps to go, you're going to want your momentum. Your tires aren't going to fall off. You're not going to scrub them off at the very least. So I think at this point, you got to take that outside and go with what's been fast all night. And I know Wyatt Tinsley's been itching to do that. Dylan Basin, another guy as well on this early run that was so good at doing that. But even looking back in this top 10, I mean, how many guys up here in this top 10 have we said their name tonight? Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley, Jimmy Mullis has been up here, Dylan Basin, Blake Reynolds, Kevin King had speed, Malik Ray's been up quietly inside the top 10 all night, Briar LaPrat as well, Brian Mercurio, Michael P. Frisch, Daniel Buttafuoco, your top 10 here, and all these guys have so much speed coming to the restart, 10 laps to go. What more could you want out of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series?
Well, they're going to restart here with 9 to go. Green flag is out, and Parker White is on it. He gets a pretty good jump over Tinsley. What about Basin with only 10 laps? Can he keep up with those top 2? Doesn't have to worry about wearing out the tires. Don't forget about those up here with them. Blake Reynolds has been fast. Mullis, Malik Ray as well. It's 3 wide behind him. Oh, and we're going to get a wreck immediately.
Oh, and another secondary collision as well. Cattell's around with Logan Helton, Kyler Wynn, Jordan Worth are in it. Even further in the back, we had 2 incidents going into turn number 3 there, but all of a sudden, again, this is where we have that cautions breed cautions moment, very similar to last week at Auto Club for those of you who tuned in with us. And this is exactly how it played out. We had one caution after going caution-free all day and just had a rapid succession of them here at the end, and it looks like we might be on a similar path here tonight. But it was Logan Helton, Brandon Cattell, who both gotten their separate little scuffles that put us under the second caution of the day.
Yeah, from what I can tell, that first one sees Sean Butler in the 32 just peak between Horn and Wynn. And unfortunately, they were 4 wide, actually, because they had Kevin McAdams down to the bottom side. There, you're going to see it right there. And 4 into 1 does not go.
As you said, that's your first incident right here, and it's so easy to do that, going 3 and 4 wide, trying to make up all the track position on these fresh tires so late in the race, and it's just naturally how this is going to happen. Looking back even further up at the front, we had a secondary accident as well, so you're going to see these guys get sideways, and then Kyler Wynn, Sean Butler as well. Kyler Wynn's going to come back down the racetrack, and it looks like, again, it was Logan Helton and Brandon Cattell and their little scuffle as well, just trying to avoid that wreck, and they just come together and make contact. Both of them go around as well, which is a tough case for both of them. Brandon Cattell was up inside this top 5 early on in stage 1, and it looks like he's going to have a wrecked race car here. Sean Butler as well, just a really tough case inside 10 laps to go.
We should have enough to restart in time, but if we get another one, most likely we are going to go to a green-white checkers, and then it's off into overtime. We'll get 3 attempts at the green-white checkers. So hopefully we won't need all of them. We're already looking like everybody is just so pent up here after being spread apart. That's the lucky dog going by. The 047 of Chris Overland getting his lap back. So will we be able to last just a handful of laps to get that white flag and finish this race? And who's going to be at the front of this? Parker White did a good job on that restart. So he's one to watch out for. It seems like even though he's had that lead cut down, he's still got this pretty well handled. I think Tinsley, Basin, they're going to have to do something tricky.
And you saw in that last restart the jump that Parker White got on Wyatt Tinsley. And if Wyatt Tinsley and Dylan Basin want to have a shot at winning this race, they cannot let that happen again. They cannot let that 011 build up a margin back to them as he did on those long green flag runs. They're going to have to sit right there with them, and maybe that comes at the risk of jumping the restart. But at this point in this race, if you want to stick with Parker White, you're going to have to do a better job on the restarts than what you displayed last time.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to really have to be on their toes because they're not going to have many laps to try and catch him back up even once we get going green flag racing. Probably going to be about 4 to go, I think, when we get back to green. At least we didn't have to have any pit stops for this one. Pretty much everybody, other than those that were involved in the wreck, naturally stayed out with only half a lap of racing under their belt there. So, oh boy, it went from one complexion to another very, very quickly in this race. And will we manage to see this whole thing actually finish under green after spending the vast majority of the laps? Let's see if we get the lights out this time.
Should set us up for a 5 or 4 lap shootout here to the end. And as you said, if we get another caution after that, we'll be knocking on the door of overtime. We'll have the 3 attempts, and for those of you who are familiar with FTF's rule of the point of no return on that 3rd overtime, we'll get to that if we need it on later on, which is a very real possibility at this point in the race. Pace car lights do go off, so we will be choosing this time. And again, another decision here for race leader Parker White. Do you take that inside or that outside? I mean, the inside paid off for him last time with that jump that he was able to get. But again, if Wyatt Tinsley and Dylan Basin can get kind of stacked up here on the outside lane and maybe push each other just a little bit like we saw on the initial start of this race, then they might have something for this 011.
Was Basin playing some mind games there? He was right on top of Tinsley's bumper, almost pushing him around the track there. So I don't know what exactly he was attempting to do. And they're both going to elect for the outside. Interesting. Okay.
If you've ever messed around with NR 2003, I mean, sometimes the cautions just get a little boring for you. So better to do than knock around the guy in front of you, spin an AI out, something like that.
All right. So that actually worked out extremely well for Malik Ray, who's going to start on the inside of row 2. Now, who's ducking down at the bottom there?
Jimmy Mullis. I think he hit the choose cone and will now be end of the longest line.
Oh.
And that's big for Jimmy Mullis this late in the race. He's had speed all night, and he has a big uphill battle. We'll be starting, it looks like, about 30th position, but back up at the front, it looks like, for potentially the final restart, we're going.
Ooh, big checkup there as it was a little bit longer for Parker White this time.
They did it.
Looks like they're going to get away with it clean. So no wreck out of that, little bit of a checkup, but Tinsley definitely good off the start this time. Malik Ray as well. And here comes Dylan Basin. We've been watching him. We've been praising his speed. Oh, they bang doors. They're going to get away with it. Look at him go all the way up high, maybe a little too high. Can Basin come back? He will.
Wyatt Tinsley's all over the back bumper now of Parker White. And they did the bump draft on the initial start there, and it put Wyatt Tinsley right up there, and it looks like the race is going to be in their 2 hands right now. 3 laps to go. But Parker White starting to inch away just a little, but caution is back out on the speedway. They're wrecking behind him. Jimmy Mullis, who we just saw with that penalties around.
Looks like Matthew Zwack also involved in it. I see David Brown in the wall. Yeah, this happened.
Butler's in it. No.
So this starts with David Brown, actually. He gets some help from Cosman Yonashu.
Sean's just going to tire from the race right there. Tough break for him. Once again, caught up in a last lap incident here.
So there's the tip.
Oh, and Cosman.
Yeah, Cosman got him. And then, unfortunately, the angle of the car just kind of sent him back into the field there. Not much he could do about that. And that caused a bigger wreck than it maybe would have been. But either way, I think that definitely would have brought out the caution. And that takes us into overtime here. Here's another look at it. Yeah, 3 wide. If you're in the middle like that, where are you going to go?
Another sorry Sean moment for Sean Butler, who gets turned around here, and tough break for him. It's going to set us into our first round of overtime as the lights will stay on the pace cars. We hit lap 167, which was the originally scheduled race end. So all of a sudden, back up at the front, we have a fair bit of shuffling. Dylan Basin has been in the 3rd position for these last few restarts, but he's fallen back to 6th. Looking at your top 5, it's going to be Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley, Daniel Budafuco slot into the 3rd position, Malik Ray, Michael P. Frisch, who, again, has just been slowly crawling up, finds himself now with 3 laps to go inside the top 5. Dylan Basin, Blake Reynolds in 7th, Brian Mercurio 8th, Kevin King in 9th, and rounding out your top 10 is Briar LaPrade. So next time by should be using the choose cone, but...
And As you'd expect with some recent cautions here, we've lost a couple drivers because of that. Cootie and Payne, Doucette, we all lost earlier, Scherer as well. But we've since lost Connor Horn, Hamilton, Akabuize. We've lost Scotty Smith. No, Smith has gotten back out on the track, excuse me. So he has taken repairs. Matthew Zwack is in there taking extensive repairs. Sean Butler is a DNF. He's left the track. And then Jimmy Mullis, after making that critical error and putting himself at the back of the field, is suddenly out of the race instead of fighting for the win. How the tables can turn so quickly.
And Sean chips in the chat saying iRacing should issue refunds for everyone that races this car. So a little bit of displeasure from him after that incident. And again, just more tough luck for Sean so far this season, 3 rounds in. Again, Daytona was a little bit of a crapshoot for him, and Auto Club didn't draw the best hand. And again, here at Las Vegas, just involved in something that not of his own volition. So tough break for Sean Butler. But back up at the front, Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley, Daniel Buttafuoco are going to be your top 3. And again, Tinsley and Basin, that last time by, had it figured out. And I'm wondering now, whoever starts behind Wyatt Tinsley, if they have that similar formula, or if we're going to see Wyatt Tinsley fall back like we did on that first restart that we got. It's going to be Malik Ray who jumps up to the high side, Wyatt Tinsley. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Ray made it 3 wide on both of these guys. But we'll just have to wait and see.
By the way, Michael Frisch on this restart, going to be, I believe, 6th place. He is up 31 positions. So, again, Michael just kind of quietly putting himself into the equation on this one. And it's going to be a wild finish, no doubt, based on what we've witnessed on these previous 2. This is going to be the one to go signal this time. So, yes, I know they've lined up 2 by 2 now, but they decided to do it on 2 to go this time to make it a little bit nicer for everybody, get everybody in order out on the track. So lights will go off on the pace car. White, Tinsley, Buttafuoco, Ray, Frisch, Basin, Reynolds. Honestly, I'd say the top 10 have a realistic shot at maybe taking the win here, the way things have gone crazy.
I mean, even outside of the top 10, there are some familiar faces with Daniel Falkingham, Kevin McAdams here, Kyler Wynn, who's had speed. I mean, again, going back to the parodies, there's just an insane amount of it here in the Barr Visions FTF Cup Series. I mean, there's about 10 or 15 guys where it feels like they can, at any moment, come out of here with a victory. But we'll see again. It's going to be Parker White versus Wyatt Tinsley and Malik Ray on the outside. Dylan Basin's here. Don't count him out. Expect him maybe to make some noise. He's had speed. Michael P. Frisch, who's just been consistently crawling up here, finally finds himself at the summit of the field. Blake Reynolds, Brian Mercurio, Briar LaPrade, Kevin King, the defending series champion, in position 10 right now. So coming through turns 3 and 4, potentially the final restart, overtime number 1. And
it's Vegas. Caleb, real quick before we go to green, give me a pick.
I mean, you can't bet against the house and Parker White, but I like a dark horse here as well. Crazy to call him that, but watch out for this 007 of Malik Ray.
All right, I was kind of eyeing Malik Ray myself as well, as the green flag is out. Our first attempt at a green-white checkers. Can we get to that white flag? Big jump for Parker White, but Buttafuoco looking good down there on the bottom as they dive into turn 1, and we are 3, nearly 4 wide already back there. I'm not liking the chances.
We'll see if they get it sorted out, but meanwhile, up at the front, Parker White has just checked out. Wyatt Tinsley, similar to that first restart, just did not get a restart, and he's actually going to fall back. It's going to be Buttafuoco and Malik Ray making slight contact. Wyatt Tinsley on the outside. They're 3 wide. This all for the second position, while Parker White continues to check out from the field. Nick Miller's around in the back, though. Caution.
No, we're staying green. No yellow. We managed to get to the white flag. This costs a lot of cars at the back a chance at this one. Parker White is the Pied Piper today. Running away, is diving down to the bottom. Who was that? Just losing control. Still 4 wide throughout this field, vying for what is second best, as Parker White has basically said, this is my race today, boys, and taken the win at the Provisional Gamble 400K. Wild finish back there as they slide across the line, wrecking in the mid-pack. But your order looks like Wyatt, Tinsley, Basin for your podium. Ray only able to get 4th. And my goodness, it's going to take, thankfully, not as much sorting out since it's all digital to figure out the finishing order. But I have no idea how that started with that back group.
Either way, it took out a lot of guys there, and you saw him start to wreck again. But either way, Parker White outlasts a few cautions. He was running away with it, and going to find himself now in victory lane. Just a dominant performance, a statement win for that 011 machine. And Wyatt Tinsley coming home P2 as well. Both of these guys had a lot of speed.
You can see him burn it down, the 011 celebrating his victory here today. And we've got a replay of that wreck on the white flag. Now, I didn't get a chance to go back and look at this. I was trying to keep my eyes on the leader, Caleb. Did you have a chance to kind of catch this one?
You'll see it on the replay right here, but I saw Nick Miller going around back in front of the field. That was Nick Olson, Chris Wetz, Frank DeAngelis was in it, Nate Stewart. And again, it was just them running out of real estate, trying to run 4 wide here at Las Vegas, which is not going to work for very long. And Nick Miller, once that contact happened, and Liam Sheen coming back down in front, has some secondary contact there. Just a really unfortunate break for all these guys back here who were trying to garner some spots here. And even further at the front here in turn number 3, you saw they were 4 wide, and it was just a slight bit of contact between Budafuco, Blake Reynolds, and Michael P. Frisch. Again, just not enough room to operate there. Turns Frisch around, and Blake Reynolds goes back into the pack, and Falkingham, a big hit. And now after the checker, they just start piling in. You see Kyler Wynn hellacious crash into the catch fence, upside down for him, and several others. Is just a junkyard on the front stretch when Parker White comes to burn it down. This is looking at Kyler Wynn. You'll see this wreck where he just goes flying into the catch fence.
Thankfully, with this being virtual, we don't have car repair bills to worry about. We don't have life and limb in danger. And my goodness, he was an absolute pinball. Yeah. He was a punching bag out there. Poor guy.
I think he gets hit again. Yeah, you see Nick Miller tries it and comes to a rest on the front stretch. The 82 machine of Kyler Wynn, who put together a decent run here tonight. But either way, going to take us into results.
And White takes the victory with Tinsley about half a second behind him. Dylan Basin in the 3rd to round out your podium. We both thought of Malik Ray as a dark horse. Well, he was a dark horse. He didn't even get on the podium, but he still did a great climb from 21st to 4th as Daniel Buttafuoco managed 5th. He was involved at the start of that wreck right there at the finish. Briar LaPrade was 6th and Lawson Peel 7th. And it's Kevin King in P8. Brian Mercurio crawling across the line in 9th. And Kevin McAdams from 37th to 10th.
Great run for him indeed. Kyler Wynn, you saw in that terrible last lap accident, coming home 11th. Blake Reynolds in 12th. A rough run for him tonight, involved in that last lap incident. Kwame Scott coming home in the 13th position. Daniel Falkingham in 14th. Jordan Worth, a quiet run for him tonight. He's going to finish 15th. Michael P. Frisch, we thought he'd have a better run than 16th, but again, just the victim of a last lap incident there. Brandon Cattell in 17th. Derek Justice, a quiet night for him as well in 18th. Corey Carpenter, we saw early on with some issues, didn't quite crawl back up. He finishes 19th. Rounding out your top 20 is going to be Gary Sexton in the number 25 machine.
Chris Overland was 21st, and Ryan Araki actually finished on the lead lap, so he must have gotten it back somehow at some point, and was 22nd. Jack Mace was 23rd, and then Justin Melillo was 24th. Chris Wetz, P25 for him, followed by Frank DeAngelis in 26th, Nick Olson 27th, and David Brown did get back out on the track after being involved in one of those late wrecks and finished 28th. Nate Stewart 29th, and then Zach Hudson was 30th.
Nick Miller, we saw on that last lap incident, the first of 2. Logan Helton in 32nd. Cosmin Ionescu in 33rd. Liam Sheen coming home in the 34th position. He was the catalyst for all that final 10-lap chaos. Matthew Zwack in the 35th position. Gotti Smith comes home 36th. Jimmy Mullis in 37th. A rough run for him after, he had so much speed, and that late penalty really killed him tonight. Sean Butler, 6 laps down in the 38th position. Connor Horn in 39th, and then Hamilton Akwabuize rounding out your top 40, 11 laps down.
And the rest of them, unfortunately, DNFs for today. Didn't get to make it to the checkered flag. But one man that did was Dylan Basin with third place out there. But it was certainly a wild ride for that 04. Kind of going up and down the order there quite a bit, Dylan. We couldn't quite figure out where your strengths and weaknesses were because it seemed like at times the car was on and sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah, the car was kind of over the place. The track was constantly changing, and so was the tire wear and heat. So I did better when it was kind of tight, but every time I got a little bit loose, I kind of struggled in dirty air. I felt we get a pretty decent car. We lost a lot of time battling with Kevin before one of the runs of pit stops here, and Parker and Wyatt pulled away. Overall, I'm happy with the race, though. Fifth in stage 1, fifth in stage 2, and third overall, so that's better than wrecking out like last week. But I'm happy for that finish.
Yeah, I mean, third place is nothing to sneeze at with the talent level here. But on top of that, you had quite the savvy strategy call there that did take a little bit of luck. I mean, we are in Vegas. Tell us about what was going through your head when you made that early stop and you started getting past, and then suddenly you finally get that long-awaited caution.
I said it right. We're in Vegas. I was thinking to beat them on pure skill at that point. They were too far ahead. And I had no drafting help, so I decided to take a gamble. And I was hoping the yellow come out about 10 laps earlier, so I would have had the lead. That could have been the difference between winning or losing. It still worked out. I could have fell back to 8th before the yellow came out and kind of been screwed over. I just wanted to try something different because I wasn't going to ride around and follow the leaders and be a sheep like everyone else.
Well, that was quite the impressive run regardless, up there fighting for most of the race with those top guys. Does this get things kind of back on course for you? Like you said, it started a little poorly, but this should turn the momentum around.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona, we did really good. Auto Club, we did really good until the final lap where I spun out and choked a good finish. But I'm glad to be finishing back in the top 10. Daytona, I finished 4th. Auto Club was like 30th, and now I'm back to 3rd, so... Hopefully we can get back up to their points. I think we're like 8th right now. I just want to stay up there, get in the playoffs, and make sure I can go for a championship.
Well, congratulations. That was Dylan Basin, your third place finisher here today. And I believe up next we've got Caleb talking to Wyatt Tinsley in P2.
Yeah, Wyatt, we saw you had so much speed in stage number 1, bringing home that win, but after that, it was just the 011 pulling away from you. What do you think you could have done different to kind of track him down?
Definitely my pit strategy. I won the first stage, and I was sitting pretty good, and then after that, I think I should have pitted on the same lap as Parker and been able to just keep up with them. Ultimately, I'm thankful to be here and help. I'm really glad of my finish. I don't think I couldn't have anything for Parker because of the pit strategy, but all in all, the job everyone in North Force Racing is just really good. North Force Racing Team 2 finished 1, 2, 3, so just great points, and yeah.
And we saw you there on those last few restarts when you had Dylan Basin there behind you, and you two were able to kind of pull off like a bump draft right off the start where it almost looked like you jumped it a little. But, you got that run and were able to just maintain that side-by-side position with them. So a strong run for you. Does this give you just inspire confidence going into Rockingham next week for the 20 team?
Yeah, it helps me build on the momentum. Obviously, working and looking for the first win of the season, picked up my first career win last year, and I'm just looking to build on the momentum, and hopefully, eventually, we'll pick it up. This is my last race on this wheel, so I should have my VRS and everything for the next race. But yeah, all in all, I really appreciate. It was a great race until the last about 10. It was about a gamble, but
Yeah.
Racing Parker there drove the best out of me, but it's ultimately deserved by him to be able to win. I didn't want to on that last that second to last restart where all got doubled up when I was side by side him into turn 1. I didn't really want to pass him like that because I believe Malik kind of jumped it and it kind of jumbled everyone up and it got me next to him. And I just kind of let him slide back in front of me. But overall, yeah, a really great race and great win to Parker.
So Wyatt Tinsley, thank you so much for your time and congratulations on a P2 here tonight. He's holding his head high. A P2 finish here tonight, Joe.
Indeed. And we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Parker White. And the one thing I'm curious about, Parker, is it took us a bit to really kind of pick out who was truly the strongest in this pack, because there was a number of people swapping that lead. At what point did you feel and know that you would be a major contender for the win? Well, don't seem to have Parker talking to us quite yet. Parker, do you have a copy? See if we can get his mic hooked up here in just a second, give him some time to fiddle with that a bit. As I said, we had quite a few drivers that were kind of shuffling around up in that top spot, especially the first two stages. And then suddenly, by that last stage, it was very clear that White and Tinsley were the ones to beat. We'll give it one more shot here with Parker, see if we can get him to talk to us. Parker, do you have a copy here? It's Joe in the booth. It doesn't appear that we'll get to talk to Parker tonight. That's a bit of a shame. Maybe off celebrated a little bit too much out there to enjoy his win. So I suppose we'll have to wrap this one up as we get ready for Rockingham at the next race. And looking forward to that one. It is always going to be wild. If we thought this one was crazy with all the bumps out there and the steep banking at that one, Caleb, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, nuts for sure. And this is really where the season starts to get fun here. We've had two great rounds here at Las Vegas Auto Club Daytona, and we're starting to see a little bit of a trend start to form. Looking at how these races have started to play out, where it's been looks like it's going to go wire to wire for a little bit, and then with like 10 or 20 to go, we get that one kind of loose cannon of a caution that starts to come around, and then the back half of the race just devolves into chaos is what we saw here tonight. But looking ahead to Rockingham, where the FTF Cup Series schedule diverts from the real life Cup Series schedule. Rockingham, such a fun track where, again, it's one of those racetracks where you can run practically any line, where that top is going to be super fast with all the momentum you carry, but the bottom's the shorter way around the racetrack. So that'll be super fun. We have Atlanta coming up in the super speedway configuration, Texas in 3 weeks, Richmond, Bristol Dirt. So a lot of fun things coming up here for the FTF Cup Series.
Yeah, including tomorrow night at 8 p.m., the Winstell 2003 season is also at Rockingham. And then on Monday at 9:15 p.m., we've got Autobahn at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I'll actually be around for that one as well. Love calling that Autobahn series. Lots of good sports car racing, especially at a tricky track like Mosport. And then, as we mentioned, we're back next week at Rockingham here for the FTF or the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series, returning just in 1 week's time. Sounds like we might be able to get in Parker White here soon. We may have figured out the issues with his mic, so we'll give him just a little bit longer to try and sort things out. We hope that you will join us for those coming races. If you haven't, definitely go and check out the previous ones here on ftf.gg for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series, because as you can see, they tend to be pretty darn good races. And it's not just these top 43 or so that you see sign up. It is many more that tried to get in. We missed a bunch of them here today, including some of them with pro license levels racing in the Coke Series that unfortunately got passed up. That tells you just how competitive it is. So I think Parker should be with us soon. Let me double check here with those behind the scenes to see if they finally figured out how to get that lav mic hooked up to them. Apparently the mic pack is not behaving for us tonight.
Yeah.
There we go. Looks like we've got him in with us. Let's try this one more time. Parker White, this is Joe Peak with the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to get to talk to you. One thing that I wanted to ask is we saw so many drivers swapping that lead back and forth in the early stages. At what point did you kind of know that you were going to be one of the major players for that win?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure off the start there because I was saving tires, and I really thought the right front was going to kind of stay on the car and the right rear and left rear would wear off, but it was really the complete opposite because when we pit there that first time, my right front was like 20% worse than my right front. So from that point on, I kind of knew how I had to drive the car. So I just focused on saving the tires, mainly the right front from that point. And I found a lot of really good speed in the second lane in 1 and 2 after about 20 laps in the run. So I just tried to do that the whole time. And it came down to that final run, and I wasn't quite sure what to do because it was kind of in that spot where we couldn't go a whole run, so I had to find when to move up. And once I finally found something, we got that yellow. But luckily, I kind of was able to just drive away there at the end, so that was nice.
Yeah, talk about those late cautions. You had managed to pull yourself a pretty comfortable gap, so I'm sure it wasn't welcome. But did you expect the caution to come at the end, or was this kind of a, oh no, not this?
Yeah, I was kind of expecting it there at the end. Like, that's usually how these races end, so I wasn't really I was expecting it, but yeah.
Well, you managed it extremely well, getting the jump on the majority of those restarts. Would you consider that one of your strengths, being able to really measure those starts and get away from your rivals?
Yeah, like, I was trying to time it right because I went late that one time and they kind of went before I did, and that really jumbled the field up. So on that last restart, I went really early, and that actually paid off for me because I usually don't go to the same spot every restart, and it helps out a lot of the time. But when I go late in the zone, it can kind of jumble the field up, like I said. But when I went early that one time, I think I got it figured out. Just to answer your question.
Yeah, it seems like you do. Again, congratulations. Well done on the victory. Hopefully, we'll see you next week at Rockingham.
Yep, thank you.
That was Parker White, your victor here today, starting from third on the grid and moving up those 2 places to take the win. Big thanks, of course, to those behind the scenes that helped put the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series on the air, and a big thanks to my team tonight, Caleb Hoffman and Zach Johnson. Again, I'm Joe Peak. We'll be back next week at Rockingham. Here for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.